If you didn't watch this, there was a performance from Sam Smith. And just like his performance at all of the music awards panels, it is what some call satanic. I just call it cringe. I'm going to put the image on screen here so you can see a little bit of what we're talking about. It'll be a little bit harder to edit this through later, but you're going to see this video. So here we go. Oh, boy.
He's just never sick of being gross.
Oh, come on. Are we serious? Oh, stop.
Are we done? Have I tapped everybody out?
Why did he have to do the wiggle?
I know, right?
I feel like this is very unbecoming for the devil.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's supposed to be fearsome.
Yeah.
And lead us through a path of temptation but like, what is this tempting?
It makes me wonder, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing I want to say is like I don't care about Satanism. I don't. What I do care about.
How bold.
People were saying like it's why is this so sexualized? I said or it's over sexualized. I said any amount of Sam Smith sexualization is over sexualization.
Yes.
Seriously.
There should be no Sam Smith sexualization. That's just my personal opinion. Another thing that was funny about this was somebody essentially said, they said, if this was a girl, people would be up in arms. I'm like, no.
What do you mean?
No, they wouldn't. It would be the exact same. People would be cheering it on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like nobody would have anything negative to say.
I mean, if it was a girl, it'd be more accurate, right?
Yeah, it would make more sense, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It would make more sense, right?
Yeah.
So for this, he listed the purpose of the show as a show of love and freedom. I guess the idea being that you're free to be who you want to be. But Ollie London pointed out when he was talking about this, he said this was an all ages show. I don't know if this is something for all ages. Personally, I don't know.
I thought concerts typically were all ages.
There's 18 and up concerts.
Is there really?
Yeah.
You know what? I never went to concerts when I was a kid.
The other thing that was funny about this is they were talking about it, and they were talking about it in a way where he says, everyone can feel safe here. This is an inclusive space. Do you really get to be both edgy and pretending to be about Satan and also be about this is a safe space?
You know, I struggle with the use of the word edgy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because for me, when I think of edgy, I think of like right in the midst of like 90s Republican Catholics being like the center force in the nation.
Yeah.
This guy, what's his name? Marilyn Manson
Yeah.
with nonstop heretical song after another. And I was like, wow, this is pretty controversial. But now it
doesn't feel controversial at all.
It's just gross.
Yeah. It doesn't in any way feel controversial to me. It just feels super try hard. And I do think that to their credit or against their credit, that a lot of conservatives end up making this like a thing that doesn't need to be made a thing about. Like it just ends up giving them more victim points to complain about and say that, look at like half the articles were like Sam Smith has a concert and the bigots come out. I just think it's try hard and cringe.
Yeah, none of these people are trying to get a fatwa on their heads. You know what I mean? Like that would be edgy.
Yeah.
I still feel like it's not wrong to want some standards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What would you like to see? Like in what way?
I guess not that. And if that means that, we do roll back having women dressing like that for concerts, at least all ages concerts. Like that's a minimum ask.
I mean, I was like, at first I was surprised, right? Because it said a lot of the things that we were talking about, at least in the article from the Daily Mail, they called it like an age inappropriate show. Yeah. And I didn't see anybody talking about that except for Ollie London mentioning that anyone was allowed to be there. It also reminded me, I don't know if you guys saw this last year, there was a concert that Christina Aguilera did while wearing a dildo.
You're killing me, Smalls.
That's perfect timing.
Wasn't that perfect timing?
Yeah.
That's great. We love The Sandlot.
Oh, that was from The Sandlot. Oh, I haven't seen that in forever.
You wouldn't be able to do that line now if we were talking about it. It would be a problem.
Oh my God.
It'd be like you throw a ball like a girl, which is great.
Yes,
right.
exactly.
It's just as good and firm and strong and quick as any other pitch.
It's stunning and brave. It's stunning and brave.
Anyway, what were you saying before?
Okay, so my question for you guys, this is like, how do you push back on something like this? Because I don't care if he does it. And I don't mind talking about it. It doesn't bother me to have to talk about stuff like this. I think it's interesting. But I also think that there is this overt push to say, like what? Like, who is it? Andrew Tate, of all people, was saying, he says, this is Sam Smith. Right here. This is Sam Smith. Why does he need to literally worship the devil as openly and abhorrently as possible to all his songs?
My thing's so I don't want to necessarily push back at a fat guy with pastings like dancing as a devil, like you do you. But what I do want to push back is the immediate reflex that a certain segment of the population has to be like, yes, this is it.
Yeah,
this is high art. We've did it. We've achieved it.
What makes it high art?
Nothing.
Okay, so what you just said, a fat man in pasties. As a resident fat man, I know that these things are funny, and he's not trying to pass it off as funny. He's trying to pass it off as serious.
Yeah.
Everybody else is saying, no, this is good for him. No, it's a joke. Laugh at this.
Well, also, do you think that like this is like ritual humiliation? A lot of people think that.
It feels that way, yeah.
A lot of people think that this is the type of thing where he's like, I hate to say this without sounding cringy, but like that he sold his soul to the industry, and what he's doing is ritual humiliation. Because if you look at old stuff of him performing, he was wearing suits, he was wearing regular clothes. Artists evolve. Artists change.
But he wasn't fat then.
He's like, he wasn't overweight at that point. But also, like they said, there's a lot of tributes in this concert to Madonna. And Madonna was always somewhat of a controversial artist, especially with her performances. Did you see the stuff recently about her like wanting her old face back?
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about this guy as I feel about Lizzo.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous song and dance is a ginormous distraction from your talent.
Yeah, especially for somebody who actually has a good singing voice.
Like you're a genuinely good singer, but you choose to display your morbid obeseness with pasties dressed as Satan.
Also,
like, what's the point?
It kind of proves that at a certain point, for some people, like no matter how much talent you have, it won't ever be enough. Like you have to become a sort of cult of personality.
Yeah, when is being good enough?
Boy, let me tell you about that.
I mean, right? Like, if anybody here would know about being a cult of personality, it would be you, my friend. Right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are artists who are good enough. Like I think of Adele. Like she was talented enough even before she lost the weight.
Yeah, but she never highlighted the fact that she was overweight.
It never seemed like that was like. It seemed like that was something that other people transposed onto her.
It was like
made it a part of like their identity to identify with her.
I feel like America died when Lana Del Rey stopped being hot.
We were going to talk about that this week, but we ended up not talking about it.
Well, here we are.
Like she's definitely. Well, she was complaining. She's saying like she used to have an eating disorder.
I mean, that sucks.
Yeah.
But the thing is, she was so hot because there's this video of just one random guy hitting on her with a candid camera, and she's totally into it. I was like, I like that she's a celebrity. She has millions, but she's still down for a random dude throwing game.
Like trying to, be flattered, don't be insulted or offended all the time. Right?
You know who I notice has that kind of quality? Post Malone.
Yeah,
I've seen videos where like it looks like, oh, if that was me, I'd get upset, and then he's just like, no, having a good time with him. Like, you know what? Props to him.
Yeah, but I like Post Malone. I think Post Malone's great.
I like him too, and that's
he's
why
also super pro 2A.
That's why he freaks me out because he just looks like dude Amy Winehouse.
What? What? No,
go on.
Go on.
Like he looks like he's withering away because of his drug habit that he's keeping.
I think this is the
wraps.
opposite now. We talked about that here. I think he's just living healthier now and he's just skinnier. He was just bigger before.
He doesn't look healthy.
He just dropped a new music video last night and I watched it and I was thinking to myself, he looks thinner, but it wasn't like, oh, sickly thinner. It was like, no, like healthy thinner.
And there is a difference
that's good.
there.
Yeah.
There is a difference there. It's not showing up here, but it must be on page 2. I'm not going all the way down to page 2. I mean, I think Post Malone's one of those people that also seems extremely genuine. Now, that could be a ruse. Like, I mean, the best artists are the ones that are very, very good at faking honesty and faking sincerity.
It's like Lex Friedman genuine or regular genuine.
I'm not a Lex Friedman watcher, so I can't pose an opinion on that. Right. Thoughts on Lex Friedman?
I've never really watched. I've seen clips, but I don't get the hate. Can you elaborate?
I can.
Please.
I can elaborate.
Yeah.
So my issue with him, it all stems from one episode that he had with Michael Malice.
Okay.
And so if you're a guy like us, if you've been on the internet, you've heard tits or get the fuck out. Like you've heard it.
Okay.
You're not endorsing it, maybe you really, but you've heard it. Yeah. Especially if you're on message boards with other guys.
True.
And Michael Malice brings it up, and he just this guy's marketed as, oh my god, he's the genius computer person of our lifetime, and everyone's always just praising him.
Yeah.
and yet he claims to not know what that is.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of it'd be like somebody saying that they don't know who Pepe is.
Seriously,
if they're like, that deep in the culture.
Is it a pee-pee? Yeah. I don't know how it. Yeah. Oh, it's a frog, but it's I don't get it. Like it. That was just a moment for me. It was like I don't know. First of all, I have a lot of friends that are computer engineers, and they're all insane, terminally online people. Some of the best people I know. Yeah. But they know what TTR GTFO means.
Do you think that, okay, I want to get back on topic with Sam Smith a little bit. Do you think that we can be like, because a lot of people are just getting mad if you critique it, if you have anything negative to say about it? I feel like back in the 80s when you criticized Madonna, it was a more like acceptable culture to just be like, you can have your opinion on something like this. Now there's a whole lot of baggage that's thrown on you if you have anything but like there's glowing praise for something like this.
I actually just watched a video that kind of I feel like it's explaining this idea. We're back in the 80s, 90s, and before social media. Yeah. We basically had like a unified culture. Mm-hmm. And now that we are in social media, in TikTok and this and that, we're all in our own echo chambers. And so you have a mainstream and a subculture within each single bubble. So if you don't know one exists, it doesn't. To you.
It's why I have a hard time when people say things are obvious to somebody. I'm like, you don't know that because you don't know what algorithms feed their life every day. Because me and Dane earlier were literally like looking at our Instagrams and we were showing each other like what was on our For You page, right? And my For You page looks very different from his For You page, which will look very different from your For You page, which means that everybody is in a lot of ways living their own reality.
And to your Madonna argument, so the thing about Madonna is she was controversial.
Yes.
Back in the day. Yeah. She did, push against societal norms, but she had a whimsy about her. Yeah. And she had, which no one seems to have anymore. And she had this charisma and persona and presence and uniqueness, whereas everyone else is just this amorphous blob of an idea. Yeah. To where the only thing that they represent is that they're down for anything, regardless of the consequence. It's like we support everything, we support everyone and anything they do under every circumstance in every moment. And it's like when you, as the saying goes, if you stand for everything, you stand for nothing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And often in the show, we've talked about humor. And how in the past we've said that humor is, Tim says like humor is associated with high IQ because that means you can recall things very quickly. But in conversation I've heard recently, humor and quick wit comes from having conviction.
Interesting.
And because you have your moral foundation and you know what you stand for and you know what you don't. Okay. So you can pull from nothing like bam. Okay. This is what I feel about this. This is what I feel about that. And notice how all these people are humorless, amorphous blobs.
Yeah, I just saw something the other day that said like a humorless society is a fearful society. Yeah. Meaning like when you're not allowed to joke about anything, there's no time in which you're not going to be on edge.
You know what? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I've been very adamant about this and like I'm a big fan of comedy.
Yeah.
Same.
You can say, and I'm going to say this, people are going to disagree, but I'm right. Okay. Okay. You can say whatever you want, literally whatever you want, so long as you make people laugh.
Right.
Yeah.
So yes, comedy is like a vehicle to express your truth. And I'm not saying your truth is my truth.
He said it, ladies and gentlemen. Someone clip that. Your truth, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. So, but when you get rid of you're not allowed to be funny part, well, then I have to just say the truth without being funny. And well, now I just sound like an a-hole.
But for me, it's bigger than being funny. It's context. Mm-hmm.
But we're in a post-context society.
Right.
Yeah. Nothing is ever delivered to with any amount of the proper context anymore. Yeah. And even if it was, most people look past it.
Because had you had the cameras rolling 30 minutes before the show aired, you would have heard some of the most hateful things in the universe said in the most loving way.
But it was funny.
And it was funny, and it was with love, and that's what people never get.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people like to divide themselves on political tribes. My division, it's constantly people that understand context.
Yeah.
That is the only tribe I care to belong to.
And that's why, like, a lot of times you have to eventually get over the idea of being misunderstood, because you're going to be misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times people will refrain from saying something because they understand. Like, and I find myself, I've done this on plenty of occasions. You kind of have to get over it when you do this job, because you know that things will be clipped, taken out of context. Half the time people will say, like, you have to develop a certainty in who you are. Like, for this, I have to know that if somebody says you said this and this was bad, I have to know enough about who I am as a person and be confident enough in the type of person that I am to know that whatever they're saying, they're either misinterpreting or they misheard.
Yeah.
Like, I would like to think that every discussion we've had here, regardless of humor, is that I don't want to have some like over the top angry discussion about something. I want to actually discuss something, have a discussion that leads to some type of better understanding of the situation. Now, that's not always the case. We riffed yesterday on Black Cleopatra and Netflix gonna Netflix and stuff like that, and that's fine. Right? But you have to know, and you have to be sure of who you are deep down. Otherwise, you're going to always second guess that. And I think, Dane, that kind of comes back to what you're saying, that you have to be strong in your convictions if you're going to be able to make those comments at on a whim.
But there's also intention. Like, so the idea of someone telling a bad joke, if the intention was to just be funny and like connect with somebody, even if the joke was bad or offensive, it's like it didn't come from a bad place. It came from a good place. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And well, that's the thing. Like, you are in a world now where if you told a bad joke to a friend, there's a rapport there that's been built with the people that you know. You're now telling those jokes to endless amounts of people that don't know you, that don't have context, that don't have the benefit of history with you. So if I make some joke about Sam Smith, they don't know that I mean no ill will, that I'm literally just adding levity to a situation where we're having a discussion about something that's serious to varying degrees to varying people. I don't think it's very serious. Some people see this as a very serious issue, and the entertainment industry is poisoning the world, and in a lot of cases they're right. But you have to be able to understand that other people aren't going to have the benefit of knowing who you are and having a rapport with you. And that's why so many misunderstandings happen either in situations like this or on Twitter. Like, a lot of times people will respond to something you say with an affronted, like with a really, really serious tone. And you're like, dude, you don't need to come at me like that. We can have a regular discussion.
I don't think it even matters if you have ill will. Yeah. And this is the biggest issue that I have with modernity, is that I think you were the one that said it, like, everyone is expected to act as if they were running for president at constant times. It's like, listen, I'm not perfect. I am hateful about some things. Yeah. I am imperfect about some things. Yeah. Deal. You know, I say stupid stuff all the time. Yeah. All the time. And often despite me trying not to. Yeah. And that's fine. But
it's because we're recorded now all the time, and all your thoughts, like, even when you think about the difference between saying something and typing something, when you say something, there isn't always going to be a record of it. Mm-hmm. No, when you type something, there's always a record.
But the idea that one misspeaking or someone misspoke, it's like, well, that's evidence to disqualify them as a person and as an intellectual and any other opinion that they can have. It's like, maybe they just said an off-base comment randomly once and didn't think anything of it.
Half the time I'm talking here, and I'm like, I would phrase it differently if we were off air. Also, not being able to swear ends up screwing up my language. Like, I hate it, and I know that's a lot of times people say that, like, not being able to not cuss is like a sign of like a low IQ. But it's like such a part of my vernacular when I'm talking about things that I care about, because it's an inflection point that I end up struggling to say things because I have to stop, prevent myself from swearing, and then go on, and then I lose my train of thought. It's horrible. So for me, for Sam Smith, it's like, I urge people to at least, if it does offend you, or you think that this is part of the deeper demonic nature of Hollywood, I would agree to a certain extent. Now, if you wanted to campaign for something like, if you don't think that this is age appropriate, maybe you could make that known and being like, look, I don't know if kids should be at this show. That seems like an actual goal. Like, you have a gripe, you have a complaint, and you have something that could be achieved. Because I think a lot of what's going on right now is like people get overly concerned with certain cults of personality, not you, and not just you, but like, suddenly Dylan Mulvaney, everyone's talking about Dylan Mulvaney and they won't stop talking about Dylan Mulvaney. The week before that, it was somebody else. And the week before that, it's somebody else. And you end up losing the bigger picture because you don't have set goals. You just have a vague target. If the problem with this is that you don't like the fact that there's kids at the show, you can say like, look, maybe we should talk to people if that's what your thing is, if you want to complain about it. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.